All right, welcome everybody to the October Lunch and Learn. Uh, our speaker today is Scott MacDonald, who is with Esri out of the St. Louis office, and he's going to introduce to us and discuss ArcGIS Experience Builder. If you have any questions, let's wait until the end for those, or if you feel free, go ahead and put them into the chat, and then we can catch up with those at the end. So go ahead, Scott.
Sure. Thank you, Josh. As he said, my name is Scott MacDonald. I'm a solution engineer at Esri on our state and local government team. And I have the distinct pleasure of introducing the ArcGIS Experience Builder web app today. Experience Builder is relatively new as an Esri product. It is designed to build web experiences. And the term is important because it's not just a web app. It's not just a singular web app. And it's not always just a website either. The experience is intended to be completely customized to your workflow and the need that you have. And experiences can be totally internal. They can be shared publicly, anything in between. They're designed to introduce content from your ArcGIS organizations, easy to build in a low or no code environment, and being able to connect the data that you maintain in your environments to a broader public or internal audience. So the agenda today is hopefully going to be fairly straightforward. I'll give an overview of what Experience Builder is. I'll showcase some great user experiences that customers and users of ArcGIS around the country have built so far. And then I'll kind of get into the building blocks of what Experience Builder is and kind of along the way show how it actually works in the Experience Builder app. And lastly, I'll share some resources for how to get started and how to learn how to use Experience Builder and how to kind of take it to the next level. So Experience Builder, as I mentioned, is about low or no code app and website design. An experience can be a single page or multiple pages. It can bring in other apps that you've created within ArcGIS, as well as resources. And you're able to either start from scratch and build up using the building blocks that we'll discuss, or you can also start with templates, both provided by Esri and provided by others. You're able to use a lot of different tools within Experience Builder, and one of the biggest parts of it is that it is data-driven, that it is designed to be a geospatial web experience or website builder. And that means that it's built from the ground up on the ArcGIS API for JavaScript 4, which is relatively new. Those of you who have explored the new map viewer or ArcGIS field maps would be familiar with kind of the look and feel of the 4.x JavaScript API, as opposed to the classic or older map viewer, which is built on the 3x API, and Web App Builder is also built on that older version of the JavaScript API. Now, one of the main questions that people ask us all the time about Experience Builder is whether and or when it will replace Web App Builder. And I want to start out by saying that there are no current plans to deprecate the Web App Builder. It is still fully functional. It is still totally supported and very widely used across the world. This is a new option for creating GIS products, but it is not intended to be anytime soon a replacement for Web App Builder if you prefer to use that platform. There are a lot of really cool benefits about using the Experience Builder. Probably the biggest one is that it is flexible. Across the designer of your experiences, You have complete control over the layout of the site, complete control over the widgets, the look and feel, the theme, everything. The second big benefit is that it's mobily optimized. Mobily optimized. It is it is designed with responsive web design in mind, meaning that you can design your experience to look a certain way that's optimized for a browser on a desktop or laptop computer, and then change the view and configure the same experience to look slightly differently for a tablet and then for a mobile phone view, meaning that the experience can respond and be flexible in giving a user the best experience, no matter whether they're on a phone or a tablet or a computer. It's also the first time that Esri has given you the ability to do 3D and 2D maps and scenes in the same type of app. You can easily configure either a 2D or a 3D or both, and have those elements being able to work, and users can work with them side by side. Now, the biggest, the really cool part about Experience Builder being data-driven is that it can interconnect between the widgets that are in the experience. So if you have, if you have one element, such as a map, and the user is zooming in to an area, you can have that widget send messages to the other widgets on the experience to have those change in real time. If I'm zooming from a statewide view just to Polk County, I can have a list widget that's next to that map also filter to show the current map extent, all the features that are in that current map extent. There's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do when you're configuring an experience to make that interconnection work across the experience. And then lastly, and I won't touch a ton on this today, but the Experience Builder is extensible using the ArcGIS Experience Builder Developer Edition. With Developer Edition, you can do more coding in order to create custom widgets, custom tools, and get even greater control over the experiences that you're designing. So to that, there are basically two ways to use Experience Builder. The first is in either ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. The experiences that you create in Experience Builder there are launched directly from your organization, just as any other app that you have in ArcGIS. And you're able to work with the content that's in your organization. Anything that's publicly shared or that you own can populate the experiences that you're using. Typically, experiences are built off of web maps, and for 3D, web scenes that you have in your organization or in your content. And that is a seamless drag and drop or selection part of the Experience Builder design. You can also use Experience Builder as the developer edition, as I've mentioned. And there, I'll talk a bit about that at the end, but it's a way for people who want to do more custom coding in order to create a custom experience. If you have the ArcGIS platform, the developer subscription, you can use that and have a local build, essentially, of Experience Builder. With that, licensing is important to understand. Anyone in ArcGIS Online or Enterprise who has a creator or GIS professional user type license will be able to use experiences. There's no add-on cost for experiences or for Experience Builder, so long as you have that user type. And then anyone who has a viewer license can view any experience that's been shared with them. And if you share an experience with the public, anyone can also view that experience without having to sign in. Those of you who know, who have an ArcGIS developer subscription, that is something that is the place for you to use the developer edition. So I want to start by showing some Experience Builder products, some examples of great experiences in action that have been created over the last couple of years. The first is from the Kansas Division of Emergency Management. And this is their situation report that brings together a huge amount of data, tons of maps and layers, reports, charts, everything. This is kind of the place where they bring it all together for the public to be able to explore and for internal staff to be able to use and to help make decisions. So there's a lot of different things in this page, and it can get really, it can kind of get overwhelming if you spend a lot of time going through it. But they have a tons of things from buttons with links. And then within each of these, within this menu, they've designed the experience to bring in a lot of different layers and pages. So let's take a look at the current weather page. By clicking on the menu, I've gone to this page, which you can see up here in the URL. It's the current weather page. And here they've combined, they have a map with a legend over here that displays information from their radar layers. You can choose to go through these different stacked pages that are within the views that are within this page to view wind, temperature, humidity. All of this is live, and this is all pulling from their content that they have in their organization. I can view information about stream gauges, for example. And this is actually bringing in a dashboard that they've created that has information about stream gauges across the state. Because this is a map, I can interact with the different things that are in this experience, open them up, pan and zoom. And they also have stacked another view on this page that is a really cool stream network. So for each of the streams in each of the rivers and streams that they have in Kansas, I can actually view each of these stream maps as kind of subway type or train networks, where I can view all the information from the map in a more streamlined representation of the rivers and the stream gauges that are along each of these rivers. That's a very, very cool way to visualize river data. So this is all about, putting together a ton of different layers, apps, data, all into a single website, into an experience where users of all kinds can go around and take a look at all these different things and easily organize and understand how to get to each of the pages that they have in their experience. The next one's kind of a fun, this is a fun one from an Esri partner, a design firm called Halcyon Levine. And this is a map of Heinz Field, and it's a way to explore the stadium where the Pittsburgh Steelers play. Within this experience, they have a number of different pages. The first is a 3D seat map. And I can view here each of the seats that they have, each of the different sections they have in the stadium. If I were to be able to click on a particular seat, I can view information about it. And for those people who are signed in, they can actually generate directions from one seat to another within the whole stadium. This is all pulling from their layers, so all the information is current. And they've designed the pop-up using the arcade expression language to be able to provide dynamic content so that each of these seats pop-ups shows information about not just where they are, but the average price of a season ticket, and go further into the revenue information for each area of the seat. The next is actually this is an ArcGIS dashboard that they've embedded into Experience Builder, which is another important part of creating experiences. You can add in existing GIS apps that you've created by embedding them into an experience. So here I can view each section and toggle them on and off to view information about the seat revenue in those areas. as I'm working in this dashboard, it's automatically adding not just to the map, but to the chart on the bottom part of the dashboard, adding the information about the revenue that's been generated for each of these sections. The next page is pretty fun. It is a beer distribution map that they've added, and this is actually a heat map that's within the experience, where you can view information about beer sales at the Steelers games, and you can do a lot here. You can even go down into the different types of beer that have been that are sold, and that will automatically filter the heat map. So this is another example of a widget over here controlling the data that's being displayed in another widget in the map. As I look at specific types of beer, if I look at a Stella Artois at a certain price point, that will automatically tell the map widget to filter and only show information about that particular brand of beer. Very cool for those of you who care about beer sales. You can also view that same information rather than viewing it just by revenue. You can actually view where each beer service area is. I can click on specific areas and have that being displayed. And then I can, this is automatically filtering more information in this experience about the value of beer sales and information about how long it takes me to walk from my seat all the way over to that nearest concession stand and buy an $11 bottle of beer. It also has information about the field, and again, this is another page within the experience that I can customize to my liking. The next experience I like to walk through is from the Michigan Environmental Department, EGLE. And this is a view of all of the projects that they've either completed or are in progress through their Renew Michigan project, which is about environmental restoration and partnering with local economic development groups to turn brownfields and abandoned industrial sites into projects for community development. So here I have two different widgets. I have a map widget over here, and I have a list widget over here on the right. And just as in the previous experience, these two widgets talk to one another. So if I were to choose this particular development, I can read about it here over on the widget, but I'm also able to view where it is on my map. Likewise, I can control it the other way. So if I wanted to view this project that's on the map, clicking on it on the map widget will automatically update the list widget to show the information about this particular development. So they provided a ton of information here. They have photos that you can view of each different project. Perhaps if I have one that's already completed, they might have more information about what was completed. And all of this is dynamically populating from their layers that they maintain as part of their GIS system of record. The last experience involves some public engagement. This is the city of Brooklyn Park in Minnesota, and they have a garage sale website. So for each of the garage sales that people register with the city, it gets added into a GIS layer that you can then toggle through to find different sales. So this during this weekend back in May, I could have said, I wanted to look at sales on Thursday that offered tools and gardening options or products, or that were selling baby clothes. And I can actually find that using the search widget in Experience Builder, and that takes me to a different page of the experience where there is, again, a map widget and a list widget. Here I can view all the garage sales that are going on during this event. And for each of them, I can click on one and be able to see the pop-up with information about days and times that's also available over here in the list widget. I can also get directions, and this automatically populates Google Maps with where the garage sale is. Sorry to this person who's address I'm putting on blast, but I can then calculate and get the directions in Google Maps based on that address. So this is a very cool way to run an event and to provide information to the public about the different garage sales that were going on during that event. So let's take a look at the building blocks of Experience Builder. When you're designing an experience, it all takes place in a easy to use graphical user interface builder that's launched either from ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. And within this experience builder, we have a lot of different building blocks. So we can start with templates. We have all number of widgets to add to our experience. And we have those widgets be populated by content from data sources, meaning typically web maps and web scenes or layers that we have in our organization. We can control the theme of the experience either with a preset theme or with a theme of our own to control the look and feel, add images, add city logos, whatever we want. And then again, I'm not going to touch a ton on this today. It's its whole separate dive, but there is the ability to extend experiences with the developer edition. With the builder, what you're creating is a web experience, the final product that is visible for users either internal to my department or organization or external to be able to interact with and really gain experience from my experiences, to be able to explore data, get information, find things that they're looking for, or submit information to me via that experience. So let's start with the template building block. Templates are either defined by Esri, by Experience Builder when you first launch an experience. You can choose any number of templates that Esri provides, or you can choose templates that your organization has already generated, or ones that are available publicly, either through online ArcGIS Online organizations or in the ArcGIS Living Atlas of the world that have been shared. So when I'm opening up an experience for the first time, let's say that I'm going to open it fresh. I'm working within my ArcGIS Online organization. I can view experiences that I've already created, or I can create a new experience, and that takes me to the templates page. Now, some of these templates are designed to be full screen, kind of a static view, and others are designed to be scrollable, where I have a web page where I'm going to be able to scroll down and explore more content as I go through the widgets. I can filter. Some of them are designed to work and kind of mirror templates that are available within the web app builder. Other templates are designed to be more of a dashboard where you're looking at kind of a real-time information for decision making and monitoring the status of content, that's deriving statistics from the layers that I have in my content. And others are intended to be either single web pages or entire websites that I can create. Again, I can look at the templates that I've created. I haven't created any yet. Templates that my organization has created, or go into templates that have been created by others and shared publicly via ArcGIS Online, or by the Living Atlas of the world that's curated by Esri. So once I've created a template, then it's time for me to start designing what I'm doing. I can also create, once I've created a page, I can generate a new template. Say that I have an experience type that I want to be able to use multiple experiences for, and I want them to have the same look and feel and kind of the same starting point. I can generate a new experience and give it all the branding and theme that I want it to have, and then share it with others in my organization or publicly if I choose to do that. So the next building block is the widgets. And this is kind of the biggest part of designing your experience. There are a lot of different types of widgets. They kind of come down into two big groups. The first is called basic widgets, which are actually about adding content and putting things into your experience. And the other type is a layout widget, which are more about structuring your experience, placing containers and navigators on the page that you can put your other basic widgets into to design them and to control them kind of as a parent container for the structure of the page. For each of the basic widgets, there are 3 types of properties that you can control. There is the content, the style, and the actions. We'll start with the content. When I've selected say a map or a list or a chart, I then select the data from one of my data sources. When I've selected that, I can then work with the content that's in that widget. Say that I have a map widget, I'll be able to control and toggle on and off which of the tools will be viewed in that map viewer. If I want to show or hide the zoom button, I want to add a compass or hide that. If I want to allow the users who are using this experience to have the search bar in this particular map widget, I can control that there. Say that I were doing a rich text widget. The content is where I'd be able to add in the actual content, the text that I'm going to have in that widget. The next set of properties is about the style, the appearance of the widget. So for each of them, I'm able to control the size and the position of the widget on my page. I can either drag and drop them, kind of resize them manually, or I can use very precise numbers to determine how much of the overall width of the page this widget will take up, and then where it sits on the page. For many widgets, I can then control the background of the widget. Perhaps I want to have a border with a certain color, have it be solid or dashed. I can even add a shadow to some of my widgets if I choose to. So for some of the widgets, I can control an animation. So this can get kind of silly. If it can kind of harken back to the early days of PowerPoint where I have animations every which way. But for this example that you see on the bottom, that's a swipe animation where the user is clicking through, and I've controlled the widget to swipe every time they move across the page and select different widgets. This one is a flip top, I think, widget animation. Whereas I choose as I choose a different view, it will flip up the old view in kind of a 3D old school view. All that's controlled through the style properties of each widget. The last property setting box for the widgets that have content in them is the action button. And this is really cool because it allows widgets to talk to each other. There are 2 types of actions, data actions, which allow you to control what the users can do. Say if I have a table and I want the user to be able to export to various formats, I would be able to control that in the data actions. And then the message actions are the really interesting part of Experience Builder. It involves triggers where, say, I have a user zoom in one map widget, and I want that to control what happens in another widget in the same experience. So I'd be able to say, hey, when this map changes, tell this other widget to listen for that kind of change, and then automatically change in concert with the change that the user was taking on that other widget. So if I have 2 different maps with 2 different scale areas, I perhaps want to have them both zoom to a particular area when one of them changes. This becomes very powerful, and the number of things that I can do with this is really what makes Experience Builder exciting. There are a lot of different things that I can do, but it all comes down to the fact that the data that I'm using in my experience is coming from sources, and those sources can pertain across the entire experience to every widget that uses that data. So at the framework level, if I have 2 different widgets that are using the same map, the same web map, I can have them both respond or have one action correspond to another widget because they're referring to that same data source. Say that I had a map of the state of Iowa, and I have a list widget next to it that shows all of the power plants in the state. If the user zooms in to one of the counties or a certain area of Iowa, I can then have that list widget be listening to the map widget and automatically filter the records that are being displayed in that list based on the current map extent. There's a whole host of things that I can do with these message actions, and they're all about having triggers to automatically work with the other widgets in the experience when a user interacts with one of the widgets. I'm not, the last thing I'm going to talk about with widgets are the layout types of widget. There are a lot of different things here that I can do to basically define the structure of my experience. Say that I wanted to have a row on my experience page that covers 25% in the center of the experience. And within that row, I want to put the place for 4 different cards. Now, for each of those cards, I can add in a widget, say a text or a button or even a map. Each of those cards will be controlled by this layout widget that's controlling where it goes and where it is in relation to the other cards on that row. I can do the same thing with columns. I can have a sidebar view where I have a collapsible sidebar that can be opened and closed by the user. And the sidebar widget will control both what's in the main view and what's in the sidebar, the collapsible sidebar. And I can also have a widget that controls the navigation of multiple views within a widget below. So in the customer examples, when we were looking at the Heinz Field, the Pittsburgh Steelers Stadium, they were using a section and view navigation to control the ability for the user to click on each of the buttons up top and have that guide them to the view of that particular page. There are also some advanced things I can do with layouts, and the first is a window. I have windows and pages. Within windows, these are either fixed or anchored windows that will pop up, such as for a splash screen. Maybe it's an acknowledgement of the terms and conditions of the experience. Perhaps it's a warning about some of the content not always being up to date. Whatever that may be, I can put that in a window, and I can either have that fixed to be like a splash screen that the user interacts with, or I can have it be an anchored mode where it'll be shown alongside the widget rather than kind of having a separate dialogue to deal with. Windows come in a number of different templates that you can customize to your liking. I'm also going to show you how you can interact with pages. And so you can have multiple pages in a widget, in an experience, each with their own types of content that can interact with each other, and the different widgets that can interact either within a page or across an entire experience. So within a page, I'm able to view the outline for that page, and that will show me all the widgets that I have within that particular page and how they're grouped. So I can have those layout widgets such as a fixed panel, a block, a screen group, and each of those widgets, each of those layout widgets can have basic content widgets within them that are arranged and controlled that way. When I open up a new page, I'm able to control to add a template to either be a full screen static page or a scrolling page. And then I can use any other number of page templates that are available in Experience Builder to control that. The last type of layout that's really cool is a screen group. This is a very modern type of experience where I have different screens that the user can scroll down through. And within each screen on a scrolling page, I can have a set of content widgets that are within that screen group. It's a very good, very appealing looking web experience, a very nice way to use modern web design. And it continues to have the same flexibility as any other type of experience layout. So let's take a look at what some of these widgets look like in Experience Builder. So I'm going to open up an experience that I've created based on a single web map that I have in my organization. Bear with me, it's Halloween, so I have designed a ghost hunting web map where I have fake data from a Main Street area about ghosts that were found by ghost inspectors. So here I have a lot of different things that I can look at in this experience. Up on this top panel, I can view the different pages that I have within the experience. I have designed an explore page for people to view existing data, a survey page for them to be able to submit new ghost inspection records, and a dashboard page that embeds an ArcGIS dashboard that is intended for decision makers who are figuring out where to send resources for ghost busting across their town. And so within each of these pages, I have content, and you'll notice down this panel down here, I will have the outline of all the content that's within this page. I can show and hide the different content that I have here, and I can view them and kind of move them around. I can do this for any of the pages that I have, and when I change the page, the outline panel here will change as well to show me what's on that page and allow me to work with it. Within the dashboard page, I have the embed widget, which has my embedded dashboard. But then I also, if you'll notice, when I go through each of these pages, I have this fixed panel up top that serves as my header. And so I've duplicated this panel and all the widgets that are contained within this panel. The logo image, the text title, the menu controller, and the widget controller for that particular map are all within this particular fixed panel. And then if I want to copy and paste this fixed panel across my different pages, I can have that shared view of each of my of everything in that fixed panel across each page that I've designed. Real quickly, I can also add in windows. So this is a fixed window that I've added as a splash screen. So I want to be able to warn the user that there may be disturbing content in this experience. I hope none of you are warning your users about disturbing content, but I'm able to control where this window and what it says, and then I can also allow them to either agree to terms and conditions, and I can add content to this as I want to. I can customize this window as much as I want, and to allow them to show this, to say never show this page again if that's what I want them to be able to do. Within this window, this is a fixed window, but I can also have it be anchored within my experience rather than as a splash screen experience. So going back to the page, let me dive into a little bit to the different widgets that I've configured here. I've used the sidebar widget, which is a layout widget, to be able to control the two different types of views for this page. I can either view this full screen map, or I can pop up the sidebar, which is within this sidebar is where I have my attribute table. So let's dive into this sidebar a little bit. This page is referring to one of my data sources. It's referring to this web map that I have, and this map widget displays that map, that web map in the experience. As I mentioned, I have the three dialog pages for properties of this widget. I have content, where I'm able to toggle, what tools I have displayed in this map. I'm able to control kind of how the tools look and how they're organized. And I can control other options. For a map view, I'm able to control the feature selection color. Perhaps I want a different color there. And so I can control that in there. I can create a new custom initial view for the user to have as their home button, and control that there. And if this were a list widget, I would have a different set of content properties that I can control. Next, I have the style properties, and this controls the size and position of this particular widget. I can either drag and have this widget be smaller or of a different dimension, or I can choose one of the automatic options, or one of the numeric options, to be able to say I want it to be 100% of the height of this particular parent container. So let's say that I want to drag this back out to fit right there. This is going to be, I can then control on the style page, I can control information such as the border that this particular widget has. Lastly, on the widget is going to be the action page. And this can control my message actions and my data actions. So I'll say that when my extent changes, I want everything else that every other widget that refers to this web map, or just to say every single widget that refers to data records in this map using the framework, to change based on this the record selection or the extent change that I have. You can see that I'm looking through this because there's a lot of different things I can do. I can go very deeply into the data and the layers that are available in this map widget, and to be able to control what other widgets do and how they behave and what they display based on what users are doing with this widget. There's a lot of different stuff, and depending on what kind of widget I'm working with, there's all different actions that I can use. When I want to add a new widget, I'm able to click the plus button, and then this is going to show me all the different types of widgets that I have. So I'm going to be able to show you some of these, but there's a lot of different things I can do. I can add buttons, such as the one I have here that goes to a URL. I can add in menus. I can add in widget controllers, such as adding in a map layer widget that will control and toggle on and off the layers that I view in my map widget. There's a ton of stuff, but again, it kind of goes into these two basic types of widgets, which are the basic or the map-centric or data-centric content ones, and then the layout widgets, which control kind of the containers of my experience and how my page is organized. If I wanted to add a new widget, say I want to add a text box, all I have to do is just drag and drop it. And this is automatically going to go into the place in the page that I've dropped it to. If I go back into my outline, I can see where I've added it. I've added it into this main page of the sidebar, and I can control it here. I can add in new content, placeholder something, and I can control everything that I have using the content and style properties of this widget. Now, not every widget is going to have the ability to do actions. For example, this text wouldn't change based on the map changing, but the ones that do will have this actions panel available on the right when I have the widget selected. I want to move on to the next building block, which I want to explain first on the PowerPoint by talking about data sources. So a data source is kind of the foundational hydration of content within my experience. And I add data sources at the experience level, at the app's framework, rather than for a particular widget. Once I've added a data source into the app, I can then add it in a particular widget and say, this map wants, I want it to show this particular web app or web map, but I need to add it to my data sources of the experience first. This is about allowing you to have these widgets have a unified data reference. If I have an experience with multiple widgets that I want to be referring to the same web map, rather than having different references to the same web map they're all going down into the central app framework to pull the live data from that content. So if I have something change, all of the widgets that refer to that layer will change along with it. And then this is also how Experience Builder allows you to use actions to control other widgets based on them sharing the same data. So taking a look at how this might go in my experience, over here on the left-hand navigation, I have my Insert Widgets button, I have my Page button, and then I have my Data button. And this is going to be where I add data into my experience. This is where I add data sources. So this is going to open up the Add Data dialog for me. I can view my content. I can view content that I've shared into my groups, information or content that has been shared with my organization or with ArcGIS Online or the Living Atlas of the World. Say that I want to add in a hillshade model from the Living Atlas, I can do that here. Over on the left, I can control whether I'm going to be pulling in web maps, 3D web scenes. In the same way, I can view anything from any of these content areas or individual layers that I have, as well as adding in services, feature services, map services, and scene services directly from their URL. So if I have a service rather than a web map, I can pull directly from that service as well and have that data be a data source for my widgets. So now, this particular data source, I'm going to be able to view which widgets are viewing are using this data source, and look at the different widgets that are using it, as well as the layers that are being pulled in by each of these widgets. Perhaps I wanted to be able to filter one of these layers. Say I'm designing an experience for just Polk County, but I'm pulling in a layer that has all of Iowa's data for it. I can then create a data view that is going to be a pre-processed subset of that layer. If it works for me, I'll be able to do that. Not sure why it's frozen, but it is. So from this dialog, let me just go back to the PowerPoint so you can see that. From this dialog, I can create a data view and choose how it looks. Perhaps I want to be able to show information just from one county. I'd be able to have that be a part of the output data, part of the data view, and to select particular features or define a spatial extent, or define, if county equals Polk, then display that subset and kind of have a definition query of the layer that I'm adding. Once I've created that data view and chosen it to be the view for that layer, that data source will only display that data view for all the widgets that are using that particular data source. That means that if I have to, if I found that this layer has more information than I wanted to show, and it already has 5 different widgets that pull from that layer, changing the view of the layer on the data page will automatically show that for each of the widgets that are already connected to use that data source. So I don't have to go through to each different element and change its data or change the subset. It's going to be controlled at the Experience App Framework level, so that I can do that all at once. This is about powerful, unified data management across your experience. I can also create, with certain widgets, I can create outputs. Say that I have a large set of data, and I want my users to be able to filter down and look at certain queries. They want to be able to create a query to look at their particular county and then export that. I can also have an output data source that is pulling a subset and a filtered subset of my data to be able to create a custom output for that user. The last thing that I can do with data is create dynamic content. Dynamic content is about populating at runtime when the user is using a particular element, and having the content that's displayed, such as the text or the numbers, be populated automatically by some controlled dynamic expression. That can be a simple expression of, simply have this text box display the title, the value in the field title on my layer, or it can be more complicated. For those of you who are used to Arcade, I'll talk about that in a second, and I can actually use Arcade expressions to automatically populate the content that's within an element. So say that I want to have my button that the user clicks and takes them to a particular place. I want both the text of the button to display based on the feature that the user has selected, and I want the URL of that button to go to the particular source of that feature. So if they've clicked on the San Diego Zoo and I want them to be able to learn more about the zoo, I can have that button automatically populate with the title of the feature, which is San Diego Zoo. And so that's what the button text is going to show. And then I'm also going to be able to set the link to go to sandiegozoo.com or whatever the URL is based on the expression, based on the attribute that I have. Say if I have a field in my layer that includes a URL, I can have that attribute field of URL be the source for my URL web address. I can also use expressions. And for those of you who are familiar with Arcade, you know how powerful it can be and how many different things you can do with Esri's Arcade scripting language. I can do everything from concatenating multiple strings into a sentence to creating numeric fields that either summarize or create wholly new statistics and outputs based on some expression. So if my user has selected only a certain number of features and they've selected multiple features, I can have my expression automatically calculate some statistic about those features, perhaps the total revenue of the expressions or of the features that they've selected, such as in that Pittsburgh Stadium's heat map, where it was automatically showing me the total revenue for the beer sales of those particular stands that I'd selected and toggled on for my map. The last thing that I'm able to do with data is integrate other ArcGIS apps. And this is a really cool part of being able to let your apps talk to each other. So real quickly, I'll show you how on this particular page of the experience, and again, it seems to be locked, which is not good. But yes, it is unresponsive. Let's open this up in a new page. I'll open up my experience again and show you that I've been able to. This is also not working. What's going on? Cool. Let's exit the live demo and go back to showing you how this would work. If I'm able to if I want to have a survey in my experience, I can put that as a widget. There's a specific survey widget. And I can have that either be a brand new survey 123 form or an existing survey that I've created. And the cool thing is that I can set up mapping between a widget such as a map or a list widget and that survey widget so that the survey questions are automatically populated based on fields in a feature that I've selected in another widget. So the very cool, very functional experience that I had up running had a map and a survey side by side. And the survey was intended to be for new ghost inspection records to be submitted. And the map showed the existing properties that we have available to go ghost hunting. Now, if I were to select one of the features on the map, that will automatically populate certain fields in the survey for them. So they don't have to know the parcel ID or the object ID or even the street address or the year that the property was built. I've been able to one-to-one map fields from the map widget into the fields of the survey to be able to populate those questions. I can also embed dashboards and story maps and web app builder apps within an experience. A very common thing to do with this is to have multiple different dashboards or web app builder apps that I've created and make the experience the central homepage to all of those apps that is designed the way I want it to be and looks very professional and brings those things all together. The last thing I want to talk about is themes, and hopefully this is a quick one. With themes, it's pretty simple. The themes control the color and the fonts of your app. So if I have, if I want to have either a preset set of colors for my my theme, or I have an organization-wide theme that is designed and given as a template for my agency or my division or my city, I can choose my experience builder to automatically apply that theme, those colors, those fonts, and those sizes to my experience without having to go in and change every single element across the entire experience. I'm also able to control responsive design for my experience. And with the three buttons, these three icons at the top where I have a desktop icon, a tablet icon, and a mobile icon, this will give me the ability to view my experience that I'm building in the different dimensions pertaining to those types of screens. So if I want to be able to hide a certain widget, it doesn't work on this page if you're viewing it on your phone or it's cluttered, I can simply remove that widget from that particular view and move it to the pending list of my widgets. What that allows me to do is to keep it and to continue to use that widget in my desktop view, for example, while hiding it from my mobile device, given the limited real estate on that page. I can do any number of resizing. I can rearrange widgets depending on where they are on the page when I'm viewing it in these different mobile, tablet, and desktop views. The last thing to do when I have my experience is to publish it. And so you can, when you first create an experience, it is in draft mode. And then when you publish, you can also continue to make changes without having them be reflected in the published version. And you'll simply have unpublished changes. You can save if you're developing, if you're adding new features and you want to test them, you can save them but not publish them. That's a really cool feature of having kind of multiple different environments for your experience, depending on what stage of the experience you're in. So with that, I'd like to open up for any questions. I'll put in the chat window a ton of resources that would hopefully be helpful for anyone who's learning about Experience Builder and wants to know more. Questions?
All right, there's a few in the chat, Scott, so I'll go ahead and rattle those off for you. I've worked with Experience Builder in Enterprise 10.8.1. I noticed that widgets would break if connected to a data source that was later deleted. I couldn't select a new data source for the widget and had to delete the widget entirely, losing any formatting. Is this a function of Enterprise 10.8.1 that's no longer an issue, or do we need to be careful about pointing widgets to a new data source before removing an old data source?
Yeah, I think that you would want to make sure that you're pointing the widgets and you're understanding before you've deleted a data source, because that widget is connected to the data source and is configured off of it. I believe that has been changed in later versions of Experience Builder. 10.8.1 ships with a certain version, and that was kind of the first version of Experience Builder. Later releases might be able to solve that problem. I think there's also the ability to warn you now if you're deleting something that has content tied to it, that has widgets tied to it.
All right, and then another question. Often you see the list widget overlaid with the feature info widget with buttons to toggle back and forth between views. It's nice when an experience starts with the list widget side by side with a map, but I wish the information widget could pop up if someone selects something on the map. Is this a future potential trigger?
I believe that's totally possible. When you have the information widget to pop up, or you want the widget to appear if someone selects something on a map. That's a good question. I think the thing that you could do is have the action essentially take you to a different page. And you can control the widgets in that way of having them kind of exist as a URL or the same way that a URL would, you can have a button or a link take you to a different feature in the experience, take you to a different page. I think that's possible, but I'll have to check. I'll get back to you about that, Rachel.
And then we've invested time and money into developing mission control web app builder apps that include custom widgets. It appears there is no migration path from web app builder to experience builder. Is this true?
With that, I would say stay posted. I think that I know that there is work being done to try to make that easier. We know that Esri Professional Services is well equipped to be able to do that kind of migration. There are options that are somewhat advanced to be able to take content from one to the other. But you're correct that there is currently no conversion path. There's no way to say, turn this web app builder app into an experience builder app. I did show on the templates page, there are a list of templates that are designed to match web app builder templates. And so that can help you rebuild them. But there is no wholesale conversion button as of yet. And I echo what you're saying, Jeff, that many customers use web app builder for a lot of different apps, many of which are very critical. And there will be no transition or deprecation of web app builder in the near future, and certainly not before there is some way to easily take those web app builder apps into the experience builder. Part of the problem there is that they are designed on different versions of the ArcGIS JavaScript API. So it's not an easy conversion because the kind of the backend configuration of it all is different. But yes, please stay tuned. I believe that is a work in progress.
All right. Any other questions? You can put them in the chat or go ahead and unmute yourself and chime in.
All right. Thank you very much.
So I guess with that then, thanks Scott for coming and chatting with us about Experience Builder.
Sure.
And
I had a whole list, and I'm realizing that I can't share links in link text in the chat. So let me just show
able to.
a couple of them, like copying links with text in them. I think it just, yeah, let me try this. Does that show up as a link? It does not. Okay.
No.
So here,
yeah,
we'll send out a subsequent email, but if you'd like to get started today, this is a set of lessons in the learn.arcgis.com site pertaining to Experience Builder.
Yeah, and then you can just send the links to Micah or myself, and when we send out the email with the video link, we'll put those in there.
Sounds good. Do that.
All right. With that, then, that is all for today. So thanks, Scott. Our next Lunch and Learn is going to be November 16th. And let me get the topic on that again. I can't find that. It's another Esri one.
I think it might be Lauren Belker potentially talking about land records.
No,
Mike can put it in the chat. It's Guiding Your Geospatial Journey by Christy.
There you go.
Awesome.
Mike is the one that sets them up. I knew she would know, but I didn't know if she'd be able to let us know. So, all right.
Christy is excellent. That'll be awesome.
So, all right. Well, with that, thanks, Scott, again. And we'll see everybody next month.
Thanks, everyone.
Scott.